All right. So let's change the subject, kind of, sort of. Well, let's talk about Big Brother. Apparently, once again, the federal government has been caught spying on citizens. Apparently, the Phoenix Office of Homeland Security Investigations, which is a part of DHS, has serially issued illegal customs summons, which is a type of subpoena, to obtain citizens' financial data without a warrant. The question would be, why? Let us talk to David McGarry. He's published extensively on Fourth Amendment violations by intelligence organizations and the surveillance state more generally. David, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on.
How did you become interested in, the idea of Fourth Amendment violations and intelligence organizations and state surveillance, and et cetera? What led you to become sort of active in blowing the cover on that?
I am a constitutional conservative with some very, very strong libertarian tendencies. And as soon as you find one of these cases where one of the law enforcement or intelligence agencies are flagrantly disregarding the Constitution and invading people's privacy, you start to want to investigate, and it becomes a whole rabbit hole, and you find just any number of cases where members of the intelligence community or law enforcement agencies have acted in really egregious ways, and you keep looking and researching and looking and researching, and these several cases just became a real focus of mine, because they're not covered by most of the media, and they're not something that many people know about. And I feel a responsibility to write about these things and get the word out.
Okay. So we talked about, I mentioned the Homeland Security Investigations, which is a part of DHS, has been issuing what are referred to as illegal customs summons, obtaining financial data from citizens without a warrant. Who are they? I mean, who are these citizens? Do they fall in a particular demographic, a particular group, a particular, political bent? Who are these people?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. And so, first I'll describe the records that were collected, and then we can draw our conclusions about which citizens are being affected. So, these records gathered were money transfer records that came or went from California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and or Mexico. Now, the threshold at which these records began to be gathered by HSI was $500, which is not a very high number. So, who are the people that use money transfers? Generally, it's people who are of lower income, oftentimes immigrant communities, and this is a real problem, because a lot of times lower income people and, like I said, immigrant communities, they don't have the financial resources or the political capital to raise Cain when these sorts of things are when these sorts of constitutional violations are done to them.
Okay, so the next question then that would follow, the reason for doing that. Are they looking for, A, illegals in this country, or B, are they thinking, okay, we're trying to figure out how to track illegal drug money? I mean, why?
It's definitely because they're trying to track money that's connected to criminal activity, unquestionably. Which it should be said is a worthwhile and necessary function of law enforcement. I should say one of the huge issues with this story and with what was going on over in Phoenix is that in an attempt, again, to fulfill this crucial duty of law enforcement, the Phoenix office of HSI just started playing cowboy a little bit. They went a little bit rogue. They didn't conduct the necessary reviews with Washington and with their superiors. And this is where a lot of my conservative sensibilities kick in, right? We need law enforcement to do certain things, to crack down on crime, maintain the rule of law. However, with that said, when they are vested with extraordinary powers, those powers have to be clearly defined by statute and by regulation, and then agents have to act within those guidelines, within those strictures. And what happened here, unfortunately, was that not only were regulations not defined, and these agents in Phoenix were just sort of innovating and coming up with some new ways of investigating. But when Senator Ron Wyden, who is a senator who I disagree with on many, many issues, but I think has been very good on government surveillance, when he sent an inquiry about the program, it was immediately shut down. It was immediately cut off. It was immediately terminated, which is not a data point that points towards the credibility or the constitutionality or the ethics of what was going on down there.
Joining us on the wake-up call, David McGarry, talking about what is considered to be, illegal surveillance of individuals here in the U.S. So what's the takeaway? Is there going to be any kind of investigation into this? Other than one senator who happens to be from Oregon screaming about it, what else is there?
Well, I think that is one of the key systemic problems that we have in law enforcement and in intelligence, in the intelligence community, because there is very, very little political will to pursue these things to their end. Oftentimes, you will get a letter from a senator. Recently, there have been several that have come from Wyden, both about this case, also about some illegal CIA action, where it makes a small splash. A few articles get written, and then nothing really happens. So my solution, as I've laid out in my writing on this topic, is people need to start voting on these issues, right? The Constitution is not something that should be in our country is not something that should be optional. And really, even though some of your listeners listening to this may never be affected by a program like this, this is a clear constitutional violation. This is a breakdown in the fundamental elements of our system of government, and these issues have to start being prioritized by voters. And once voters start prioritizing their privacy, once they start prioritizing the securities of their persons and documents, the political class will start to respond to that. But unfortunately, right now it's just a matter of incentives, where senators, for the most part, and this goes for really anyone, senators, representatives, or members of the executive branch, have very little interest in pursuing these leads and running these stories down.
All right. David, we appreciate you joining us on the wake-up call this morning. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
All right. You take care.